Hey guys, welcome back to Learn Arduino. I'm Caleb, your host. Today we're going to be going over the basic parts list you need to get started with Arduino. Arduino is an open source microcontroller that you can use to program and interface with outside objects, such as this lamp behind me. Using a relay, you could possibly turn it on and off by pressing a button on processing, which is an application where you can make your own GUIs and stuff like that. And I mean GUIs as in just like, little square box and screen where you can click, nothing fancy. So this Arduino board comes with an Atmel Amiga 328 on the board, or they have an SMD version of it, which I say there's no advantage to that SMD version of the board. It's better just to have the one with the Atmega 328 with OptiBoot on it, because if you break the chip itself, you can see I have replacements, so you can just replace it yourself. That way you don't have to buy a new $30 board every time you accidentally break your board. And these are good for putting it on your projects permanently, so you don't have to waste an Arduino board every time. Let's get started with unboxing the Arduino. The Arduino itself comes in a clamshell packaging. It's very nice and sleek, and it looks very professional. Of course, as you can see, I've already been using mine for a while. I'll do new unboxings of all of these in the future. Such as Beagle Black, which is another microcontroller, but it's more like a mini computer. This is just more for, controlling outside objects, not really for serving web pages as much as the BeagleBone. But the Arduino, as you can see, has 4 female headers on it, which you can use to plug in components or shields. And as you can see, it's got a USB Type B connector, I believe, and a barrel jack connector, as well as you can see the Atmega 328 on there. Obviously, as you can see, it's very easy to take out of the socket, so you can just replace it. It's not that hard. They have the ICSP headers on there, which is In-Circuit System Programmer. There are multiple ways of programming this. You can even set it up to program other Atmel microcontrollers, so you can use them in your projects. But inside the box, aside from the beautiful Arduino, there are stickets and a pamphlet that just says thank you for supporting Arduino, and it's really long and has all of this information on it, which is not important. It also comes with stickers, which I'll show you in the other box because I've already used them on my computer. Here is the Arduino Ethernet shield, which I also recommend you get before you buy anything else with the Arduino, because this is essential for doing things over the internet and wireless. And it's much easier to use, in my opinion, than an XV or any other RF modules. So when you open it, it comes in this nice clamshell packaging as well, same as the other one. And it comes with stickers and the manual as well. So as you can see, it's got the stickers and the manual as well inside of it. But here's the board itself. It comes with pad on the bottom of it to protect the pins, because they're male pins, and you can easily bend them. Side note is you should be very careful when you're taking this out of your Arduino or putting it in, because you can bend these pins, and if you break it, you're going to be in a world of hurt soldering them back on. Believe me, I've done it. So here's an up-close shot of the board. It's got the Type B, or not Type B, sorry. It's got an Ethernet connector, Ethernet jack on this board, as well as the WizNet chip and a micro SD slot, I believe, is what SD version that is. And they also have a reset button. So this is going to go on top of your Arduino. So you connect them together by putting the pins, male pins of your Arduino Ethernet shield to the Arduino itself and push together an Arduino sandwich. It's like making an Arduino children. And as you can see, it's also got on the Ethernet shield, it's got a female header for the ICSP headers. Now, you can do all sorts of crazy stuff with this. Control fans or lights, lamps like the one behind me over the internet, and you can do all kinds of crazy cool stuff with it. I really love the Arduino platform. It's really nice. Let's go over what else you need to get started with your Arduino. You're going to need a USB connector to program your Arduino. It's essential when you're getting started with Arduino. They sell them at sparkfun.com, which I'll talk to you about later. You also need a servo motor. Very good for projects, turning, let's say you wanted to turn your blinds, you can connect to a servo and turn the blinds and open them. A stepper motor, which I would recommend more so than the servo. Sorry. And it can turn full revolutions and keep on going in a complete circle, much like a DC motor, instead of the servo, which can only go 180 degrees, which is why I recommend you get both, as well as a motor controller board for the servo, because you cannot just control it with your Arduino alone. There are a lot of things that the servo needs that the Arduino doesn't have on board, which I'll talk about in a later video. Some other things you should probably have are connector wires, which I call them breadboard wires, but in reality they're called hookup wire. And they have these fancy little connectors in the end of them, so you can just easily plug them into a breadboard without having to strip the wire off the end each and every time, and does waste wires, which costs you money. You need some LEDs. I have a red and green out, but you can buy whole bags of them for like 25 cents. The ones at SparkFun, I believe, are like 10 cents. Don't quote me on that. Some other things you're going to want to have are maybe an LCD screen. I recommend the SparkFun LCD screen with the serial backpack, so you only really need a 5 volts ground and a RX. And they're very handy to have around for your project enclosures and stuff. That way you don't really have to rely on some kind of audio. You can just see how many unread emails you have, or how many like unread texts, whether you have mail in your mailbox. Crazy stuff like that. Some other things I recommend you have are batteries around to power your components in your breadboard. These are all useful components to help with your Arduino. Some other things that I would recommend having are XPs, which I will go over in a later video, and these XPs are RF modules, radio frequency, and you can use them to wirelessly control things or, turn things on and off, crazy stuff like that. But this is another shield, which, as you can see, they all have the same format. They follow, they have the male headers and then the female headers in the top, so you can plug this into your Arduino but still connect components on top. Let's set that aside. And then I also recommend having a joystick shield, which has a joystick on it from SparkFun and 4 push buttons on it and a reset button on there. It's got a space for prototyping in the middle, so you can add components and stuff. Very good for controlling, robots, maybe a servo motor by turning the joystick left or right. I really recommend having all these basic components around just so you can get started with your Arduino. But essentially all you need are your Arduino. I would recommend the Ethernet shield, but you do not need that. You need a USB cable, you need hookup wire, you need a servo and a stepper motor, LEDs, you need the hookup wire, and you need the breadboard. These are all things you're going to need to get started with Arduino. And you need all of them, and I'll go over on the monitor with you in a minute, and we'll open up a SparkFun cart, and I'll show you the total of all of your items and your shipping, estimated at my address, since I don't know your address. Maybe I do. Maybe. But, and another thing I forgot to mention, I apologize, is these proto boards. They're $2.95 each, but they're great for when you finish your actual projects and you want to permanently solder them onto a board. These are great because they have screw holes in them, and I think you can buy the hardware separately. It's on the recommended hardware page, and you can screw them into your project enclosures. In case you're a total noob and you do not know what project enclosures are, this is a project enclosure that I've just been recently cutting open for an LCD screen right here. They open up and you can see they have screw holes inside and little slots to put PCBs inside of them. They're really useful for putting like temperature sensors inside. Let's say you want to make a weather station. Put it outside and waterproof the sides and stuff on the LCD screen, and you can have like this be the receiver and have the actual box that gathers the data outside your house. Anything you really can dream up, you can do with Arduino, which is why I love it so much. We're going to be going over all of this in the monitor in a second, but let's just make sure you guys understand all of this stuff. So Arduino is what controls everything. The Ethernet shield, the shields are extra components, I call them components, that you can put on your Arduino, even though they're really separate boards themselves, that you can use to extend the functionality of your Arduino board, but really you only need your Arduino, and all the other components are listed above. So let's get started on our monitor, and I'll go over the different items you need with a cart on sparkfun.com. Let's get started.